Now, despite billions of dollars in loans and government spending over the past decade, Nigeria's power sector continues to be plagued by grid collapses. Since 2015, the national grid has failed over 100 times, leaving millions of Nigerians in darkness and businesses struggling to stay afloat. The promises of two successive administrations, first Buhari and now Tinubu, have been met with limited success. Under Buhari, grid collapses averaged 11 per year, improving only slightly towards the end of his administration. But grid failures have continued under President Tinubu, with 12 collapses recorded within just 16 months of his term.
Well, a significant part of the funding for power sector improvement has come from the World Bank, which has provided loans totaling $4.36 billion over the last decade. However, approximately $2.96 billion remains undisbursed, hindered by slow bureaucratic processes and unmet project targets. The question on the minds of many Nigerians is this: where is the impact of this massive investment? Nigeria's power supply lags far more behind comparable global cities. While Lagos, with a population of 25 million, receives only about 1,000 megawatts, Shanghai, with a similar population, delivers over 30,000 megawatts.
In response, the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, NERC, will hold a stakeholders forum to examine the causes of grid collapses. The Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, has proposed creating regional grids to alleviate the strain on the national system, admitting that Nigerians' aging infrastructure is a primary cause of its recurrent failures. So as Nigeria awaits structural reforms and the potential of regional grids, one question remains: will the investments ever yield reliable power, or are the promises of a stable grid just another flickering hope? And so joining us this morning to unpack these issues and more, and hopefully have answers to our question, we have our guest who joins us live via video chat. Suleiman Abdullah is a leadership and strategies consultant, and he joins us live right now. Thank you so much for joining us. A very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning to you. How are you over there in Lagos?
We're doing our best. We're doing our best. Welcome. I mean, let's get right into it, shall we? I'm going to just start by asking, in light of the recent grid collapses that we've seen in the past weeks, can you explain what typically triggers a collapse and why they seem so frequent? I mean, a dozen in just 16 months of one's administration, it begs to ask a lot of questions.
Thank you very much. Looking at the issue of a national grid collapse, let's look at it 3 times within a week. It's not just accidental, and we'll not look at it as a technical failure. It's a deliberate attempt by the institutions concerned and those responsible for the good maintenance and to take care of the security of all those electricity gadgets, things that are meant to put light across the nation. National grid, if it first fails in the first time, collapse for the first time, we'll look at it as an error or a mistake or accident. If that should be seen as what? As technical accident, technical failure, or something will have happened to it mechanically, then the expert will trace it immediately, not with the use of manpower. We have drones that could easily track this across the nation and spot where it is. Now we are talking of what? The digital nation. So the electricity power department should be, or sector should be able to track what is responsible for the failure in the first time, collapse in the first time. What are the technical issues? What are those factors responsible for the failure or accident? In this aspect, if there are human errors, you will need to take pragmatic actions, measures to address them in the first place. And if you're addressing them, you're addressing it once and for all, because the first thing while you are there to take care of those things that put measure that one mistake should not repeat itself in the second instance, in the second place. But now we have 3 things happening in the same place within 1 week. So this calls for a serious questioning. And if If answer is not being given, I think serious measures should be taken to address this issue. Number one, there should be disciplinary action against those responsible for the maintenance of those national grid. That is number one. Number two, what are the causes? If there are mechanical or technical errors, they should be addressed immediately. Number three, what are the proactive measures put in place to address this issue? If all these questions cannot be answered, so I think disciplinary action should be taken against those that are in charge completely. That is it, because there is no way we can say, look, the national grid collapsed 3 times in a month and 16 times, not 12, 16 times within the beginning of this administration, from the beginning of this construction of this administration. So you see, Mr. President need to ask a question. That's number one. Number two, power sector is one of the mainstream of economic national development of any serious nation. I think from the beginning of the inception of this administration, Mr. President should have come out with an executive blueprint. What does he want? What are his needs?
Okay.
What are his measures,
Mr. Abdullah?
For the yes.
I mean, Mr. Abdullah, I mean, you've spoken at length, but would kindly appreciate if we can actually just get your responses very sharp and precise. I'd like to ask you very quickly. I mean, the ministers come out to say that we need regional plans. It means that rather than having a particular one that would serve, a particular grid that would serve everywhere, let's have them in spaces where they would serve each region. Don't you buy this idea? And don't you agree with him that we are indeed ripe for a new grids?
Good question. You see, yes, we are indeed in need of a new means of generating electricity for the entire nation. Regional grid, good and fine, but how will you do it? You have privatized the sector, electric sector. Then now, let me ask the minister, is it the federal government will take responsibility of providing this regional grid establishment or the investors? This is a very serious question. Are we talking of another budget from the national account? Then who is to be responsible for this? You have privatized it. And the privatizers, those that bought the energy sector are there, cashing money out from the people, cashing in money all the day. Then what do we do with this? Whose responsibility now to generate electricity for the nation? We have DISCOs, we have GENCOs, we have all COSCOs in the energy sector. What are all these COSCOs doing? Then let me tell you, I don't think it makes any sense that, look, after selling a suit to somebody, you add one to pay for the maintenance of the suit, the laundry services, the ironing and everything. So let's call those that have bought this energy sector, ask them some critical questions, ask them what is their plan, and review this contract. What have they done in the last 10, 12 years? If it is not in the line and in the interest of of the government and the general citizens of Nigeria, let's review it and come to our own what we have in before, and we talk of regional energy generation and distribution. Because now we are talking of regional grid. Yes, all the 6 states in each of the nation could come together, 6 or 5 or 4 can come together, partner together, generate their own grid, establish their own grid or other source of generating power, such as we have the wind turbine, we have what we call the solar panel farm that could be established in the desert that will give you enough electricity, can generate enough electricity. So if they can go on this, and we have a lot of mini dams within all these states that can be converted to mini generating grid with mini turbines that can generate about 1,000, let me say 800, 500 to 1,000 megawatt daily. So what are we saying? So if we are saying that, look at this investment because the privatization of the electricity sector have not did any positive and constructive benefit to the government, neither the Nigerian citizens. So what we are saying, look at the terms and condition, take your things back. If you are going to make it a state affairs, give it to the region, and it should be handled by what? By the new Ministry of Regional Development in collaboration with the Federal Ministry of what? Of Power. So this might take as far as it's concerned, because it's another dimension. I will, in this aspect, if what Mr. Adebayo is saying and is going to work with it practically, in this aspect, I shouldn't be biased. I will say kudos to him. But it is in the premature stage now. But if it gets matured and we look at it, we need to get our property from all these we are calling that have been privatizing. They are all making their 419. I'm sorry to say, they are just making money from Nigeria. And let me tell you why I said this. Look at the federal inland revenue. There is a portion in the bill they circulate at the end of every month. VAT. Who is responsible for this VAT? This VAT go to where? Has Federal Inland Revenue established an office in each of the GENCOs or DISCOs office to look at what has been paid and what goes to the federal government as far as VAT is concerned? That one is zero. And what has happened to all the VAT they have collected over 15 years now? If you look at it, this is a gross misconduct and corruption in the system that needs to be attended to, that needs serious attention, because we need to address this issue of corruption. That is number one. And number two, I will tell you, if you look at the sector, most of new developing areas among the state and some local government or new developing areas, you look at it, most of the people that are settling there, new settlements, establish their own life. They erect the pole, get the high tension, get their transformer, fix it. Then these people will just come and start distributing bills. So in this aspect, if you want to look at it, who is supposed to be responsible? Yes.
Mr. Abdullah, I want to talk about, Nigeria's growing population. I think we have to put this into account as well. Just as we're having a mass exodus, we're also having a population that is expanding and at a speedily rate at that. Do we have a realistic target for energy? And when it comes to energy generation and distribution within the next decade? Because there's one thing to talk about, energy generation and the grid, the regional grid, but what happens to the next decade as we see our population continually expand or grow?
That is the first, yes. That is in the first instance I told you that, look, Mr. President have to come with a blueprint telling the Honorable Minister of Power that this is what I want, this is what is expectation of you. If not, the minister should be dynamic in reasoning and in up and doing with strategic plan, which is a mandate to look at who are his think tanks, who are the experts, who are the professionals in the field that he need to work.
In your expert opinion, what would then be? What would that blueprint look like? If you were to itemize this, because one of the things the ministers will say is, when they took up the mantle, when they took up the positions, they don't have the tools, they don't have the necessary requirements or the things that they need. They were not provided with a blueprint. They just went in blind into this administration. I mean, that's what some critics will say, or what some of their supporters will say. And many have called for the minister's head on the chopping block, along with the other 5 that was let go just this week. But I have to ask you, if there was a blueprint, what would that look like? What would it be? Itemize it for us very quickly and very succinctly, because we're almost running out of time.
The blueprint number 1 should look at the terms and conditions, the legal framework of the privatization of the power sector, because that is where you have to look at first. Number 1. Number 2, where are areas that need to be restructured and which of the sectors that need reform? Number 3, which aspect of it that need expert and professional individuals that can actually put their experience to play? Then number 4, you look at it. What is the time framework for we to realistically achieve what is achievable as far as increasing the national megawatt is concerned from maybe 3,000 or 3,005 That's the reality about it. To like 10,000 megawatt for a populated nation like ours. So this is what it's supposed to be look like. And you look at it, the mandate, what is expected financially of us, and you can put it to the minister. How do we solve this money? That is it. Then finally, you look at it, what has been the advantage, interest, national interest of this privatization that has taken place for over 15 years? What have the government make out of it, profit, economically, and what has been the economic deficit in it? So we look at it, the pros and cons of it. If it, then we need some kind of logical advice from the ministers. If we have to take our property back, we take it from them and tell them, thank you very much. For now, we are okay with you, and come to the board, the drawing board, re-strategize and look at what other options left for over to us, either regional aspect of it, or the federal government should look at it as a central coordinating unit to be taken charge by the Honorable Minister of the power sector of the power in connection with the federal with the presidency.
Mr. Abdullah, I have to ask about, the World Bank funding, and also, I don't know if this is loan or funding, but we know that a certain amount has been given when it comes to power generation. We've seen a bit of that money going to rural electrification agencies and trying to bring the rural areas and those parts that do not have power on to the grid, right? But, I would like for us to talk about that funding specifically and the power sector. Does it need more funding? Is it a lack, or do they have funding and we just haven't seen enough transparency in that sector? What exactly is the issue, and how can we ensure transparency that this money is used correctly, that Nigerians don't have to see another grid collapse at least for a year?
Thank you very much. If you are to address this issue holistically, number one, the issue of rural electrification. Who are you electrifying for? You are electrifying these rural areas after privatizing. Can you come and start mounting mast for MTN and Globacom Limited in Nigeria? It is a lot. These people have their mast all over the nation with their establishment, and they are getting their money, they are in business. This, as far as I'm concerned, what is happening to the power sector today is complete failure from A to Z. So it needs total overhaul, restructuring completely. It needs to be overhauled. And if you are talking of rural electrification, if you have electrified the whole thing, all the rural area, then now all these privatizers will now come, who have bought the energy sector, will come in and start cashing money from it, where they are reaping from where they never saw. So what are we saying? That shows what we are saying here. Our government is not responsible. If you want to be responsible to the task ahead of us, let's call these privatizers. Sorry, these are people that have bought the energy sector. What is their input since they have bought this electricity sector? What have they made out of it? That if it is not good for anybody, let me look at it. I will give you simple analysis, please. Please, just simple analysis. Listen to me.
Please hurry up. Go ahead.
Okay. Let's look at the mainstream source of power generating in Nigeria is the Kangi Dam. The Kangi Dam was built in 1964 with 12 chambers. Out of these 12 chambers, it is only 4 chambers that are working with turbines. These turbines have been working over decades, and now they are weak. They only operate at optimal level when the water level is high during rainy season. That is why you see we have enough water, enough electricity during rainy season. The moment we start approaching dry season, just like what we are seeing now, you'll be hearing grid collapse. But
Mr. Abdullah,
they are unable to give us electricity as expected. That is number one. And number two, this is the end of the year, because what was given to them as budget for this year has not been exhausted. They need to look at where to spend this money before they could give a justification for the next year budget. So now, if they told you the grid collapsed 21 times within 1 week, so we should expect a collapse again as I'm talking to you now, because they need to justify the expenses they are doing with what? With the current budget before they talk of another one. So now, I'm still talking as what? What we are saying now is that, look, we are not far-fetched from what? From corruption, insensitive of what those in charge of what? Of the energy sector, and the complacence in the whole sector by those responsible for it. The regulatory agencies are not up to the task.
All right, Mr. Abdullah, I hate to do this, but I think we need to cut in. I think you've explained well enough, but of course, some experts will argue with you that Nigeria does not depend on the dam anymore. It uses fossils, gas, of course, hydrothermal energy to actually generate power. I mean, that's a fact, though. They're still going to argue with you. But I think when we have you again, we will touch base on these possibilities and the questions as well. If truly is a dam that only generates power, especially with your statement. Thank you for your time. We truly appreciate your time with us this morning. It's a great pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.